On this episode of China Uncensored, want to know a foolproof way to catch a Chinese spy? Ask him if he's a spy. Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. We take you now to New Zealand, the small nation southeast of Australia and the secret location of Middle Earth. New Zealand has 2 main islands, 5 million citizens, and 70 million sheep. It's also home to this guy, Jian Yang, a member of New Zealand's parliament who is definitely, totally not a spy for the Chinese government. Unless he is, sort of, maybe a spy. That is, if you believe this recent investigation by the Financial Times and New Zealand's newsroom. But Yang insists that the accusations he's a spy are all a part of a racist smear campaign.
I challenge those who are propagating these defamatory statements to front up and prove it.
Well, they kind of made a strong claim. And to be clear, the allegations of spy stuff aren't because he's an immigrant or because he's ethnically Chinese. They're because of his actual links to an actual Chinese spy agency. The links are serious enough that New Zealand's Security Intelligence Service began looking into Jian Yang 5 years ago. Jian Yang moved to New Zealand in 1999. In 2011, he was elected as an MP, a member of parliament. But this report I mentioned raises concerns that his prominent position in New Zealand's government could be an in for the Chinese Communist Party. Yang spent decades at Chinese schools known to train spies, although he accidentally forgot to include that on any of his resumes, or that he used to be a member of the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, to be fair, we've all left something embarrassing out of our resumes. Like the time I hosted a Japanese game show called Food Floor Dinosaur, where contestants were forced to crawl around on a giant obstacle course while eating food that had been spilled on the floor while being chased by giant robot dinosaurs. It's not quite as embarrassing as joining the Chinese Communist Party, but it's close. Between 1978 and 1994, Jian Yang studied at the Air Force Engineering Academy of China's People's Liberation Army and then taught English at the Luoyang Foreign Language Institute. That last one may sound harmless enough, but it's run by one of China's main military intelligence agencies and is the equivalent of the United States NSA. The Luoyang Foreign Language Institute is part of the PLA's 3rd Department. In addition to being the perfect name for the next Tom Cruise movie, the 3rd Department is responsible for spying on communications. The Luoyang Foreign Language Institute teaches up-and-coming young spies how to speak the languages of the countries they're going to be spying on after they graduate. Besides learning English, other classes include Tuxedo Wearing 101, Talking to Your Shoe 101, and Killing 30 Men Armed Only with Your Cufflinks 201. That one's an advanced seminar. Now, this isn't to say Jian Yang is a Chinese spy. He just taught English to Chinese spies so they could do a better job of spying on foreign countries. Still, this isn't looking good for you, Jian Yang. What's your response to the fact that you taught at an elite Chinese spy school?
I was a civilian officer, paid by the military, but I had no ranks.
A civilian officer, paid by the military. Care to explain that?
In China, right, in the military system, you have ranking officers, you have non-ranking officers, which we call civilians in the military. I was one of civilians in the military.
I see. So in China, you have ranking officers and non-ranking officers. And you were a non-ranking officer who taught classes to Chinese spies. Hey, Macarena! Did you know that the Macarena is actually about a girl who cheats on her lover with 2 of his friends and then wants to move to New York to seduce a new lover? That's true. Your favorite dance song from the 90s had terrible hidden depths, just like Jian Yang's connections to the CCP and its spy agencies. Well, Jian Yang, do you have any other defense? I can understand that people can be concerned because they do not understand the Chinese system. But once they understand the system, they should be assured that this is nothing really you should be concerned about. Exactly. It's like that clown who lives in the sewers. At first it seems scary, but when you take the time to understand it, you find out it's actually just some kind of trans-dimensional spider that lives off the fears of children. Spoiler alert. But it turns out that this spider also has a taste for creamy, delicious, grass-fed New Zealand anchor butter. On a large scale, the Chinese Communist Party is working to subvert New Zealand's government and society. That was the finding of this recent report, Magic Weapons, China's political influence activities under Xi Jinping. It uses New Zealand as a case study for the Chinese regime's attempts to guide, buy, or coerce political influence abroad. Why use New Zealand? Apparently, the Chinese Communist Party feels the relationship with New Zealand is a model for other Western countries. In other words, it would like it if all countries could be as easy to control. That, and Xi Jinping is a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Why do you think that report is called Magic Weapons? Xi Jinping is totally into LARPing. He even learned to speak Elvish, Quenya, and Sindarin. The magic weapons are the tools the Chinese regime uses to maintain its power. Okay, this is sounding like Lord of the Rings. According to that report, one method the Communist Party uses to influence foreign countries is through Chinese communities living there. The United Front Work Department is in charge of creating and financing groups of ethnic Chinese. There are about 200,000 Chinese people living in New Zealand. Obviously, they're not all spies for the CCP. But as the report says, Beijing-supported United Front groups in New Zealand are too multitudinous to list in full. One example, though, is the Peaceful Reunification of China Association of New Zealand. This is an organization set up in New Zealand, but it also falls under the jurisdiction of the Communist Party's United Front Work Department. What's peaceful reunification? That's about how the CCP wants to someday peacefully bring Taiwan back under its control by peaceful military action if necessary. This organization engages in a range of activities which support Chinese foreign policy goals, including bloc voting and fundraising for ethnic Chinese political candidates who agree to support their organization's agenda. They're also the ones that organize counter-protests to shout down those pesky human rights protesters representing Free Tibet or Taiwan independence that come out whenever a Chinese leader visits New Zealand. And surprise, Jian Yang is linked to the Peaceful Reunification of China Association. This article on their website brags that MP Jian Yang was at their event in 2012. Jian Yang has also worked with them and other Chinese organizations to raise big money from anonymous Chinese donors to support New Zealand's National Party. He's also accompanied the current and former New Zealand Prime Ministers on fabulous red carpet trips to China and met with high-level Chinese officials. But does this mean Jian Yang is a spy for the CCP? He says he's not a spy. But he's also clearly not like the many immigrants who left China because they don't like the Communist Party or want to disavow their connections with China's brutal regime. No, he's definitely pro-brutal regime. I mean, Jian Yang was a former CCP member, and he attended a Chinese military academy and taught English to spies in training at one of China's big spy schools, and works with pro-CCP organizations in New Zealand. But there's no conclusive evidence that he's some sort of plant or a James Bond type spy. I mean, James Bond wouldn't be caught dead dressed like this. It's clear that Jian Yang did not teach Tuxedo Wearing 101. There's actually a big spectrum between not being a spy and being a spy for the CCP. For example, without being an actual spy, you can still serve the interests of the CCP. Like how Jian Yang helped lead New Zealand to catch the Belt and Road train of Chinese investment. So regardless of whether Jian Yang is a spy, was a spy, or was never a spy, one thing's clear. As a member of parliament, he's representing pro-CCP interests within the New Zealand government. It's kind of like you have a government official, but then you find out he used to work for Saruman. And now the question is, does he still work for Saruman? The good news is, we'll have lots more time to figure that out since Jian Yang just got re-elected as a list MP by the National Party. So even though voters didn't directly vote for him, his party wants to keep him around. What do you think? Leave your comments below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. I know, you'd rather be LARPing with Xi Jinping, but since he's not available, how about instead you go to ChinaUncensored.tv, where you can watch full half-hour episodes of China Uncensored for free.